Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's live stream. Get going in a couple of minutes as usual. Just like to give everybody a chance. If they want to jump in, they can jump in. And as always, any comments, questions, let me know. So interesting developments on the US dollar. Dollar CAD was something we discussed yesterday. There was a nice little setup on here today. Two setups actually. We'll just clone this up. Two setups on there. So that one's actually performed pretty well. So we'll cover that again today. I'll try. Give me 2 seconds. Let's get rid of all these. Don't need these now. Back in. Put ourselves on the weekly time frame, and then we'll break down dollar CAD in a second. But good afternoon, everybody. Afternoon, Roberto. Afternoon, Vincent. I'm doing well, thank you. Hope you're well too. Oops. Let me know what you guys are trading as well, what you're looking forward to. Obviously, we've got non-farm payroll data out tomorrow, which is going to be the big sort of talking point. We've also had some data out today. We had China manufacturing PMI data overnight as well, which came in above expectations, above previous as well. Waiting for the CACSIN or the CACSIN manufacturing PMI data tomorrow. That's a bit of like an independent one, so we'll see what kind of figures come out of that. But that came out a little bit better. Non-manufacturing PMI actually was above 50 as well, at 51. Slight contraction down from 51.5, but that was about it. We did get some CPI estimations out of Europe as well, but most importantly, we had the core PCE price index as well as the unemployment claims this afternoon. So about an hour ago, we had some data drop. Unemployment claims were actually down to 228,000, but above that 200,000 mark, which I think is where the Fed are expecting sort of things to be. Core PCE price index was forecast to come out at spot 2%. It did. So no real kind of expectations there. What we have seen, though, is the dollar did react slightly negative to that data. And we have seen a little bit of a drop. But I think the important data is going to be tomorrow, that NFP data. Market's going to be really watching that data to see if we do get any kind of real sort of pull kind of changes there in the labor market in the US. So we'll be able to see if there are any kind of shocks there, or if they're kind of on track reducing that sort of labor market pressure. One currency pair that I did discuss yesterday in yesterday's video was US dollar CAD. Quite like the downside to this market at this current moment in time. I was personally short for a little bit. Came out just after the news, so the news actually helped the position move lower. So that's something I'm going to break down to you now, and then we'll go over some other pairs of interest. So why is dollar CAD of interest first? Well, obviously we are getting data out of the US at the minute, and it is on the poorer side, isn't it? So there's that sort of feeling that if that data is going to continue to remain weak, then there's an expectation that the dollar should start to pull back slightly. There's an expectation that the Fed are going to pause interest rates. Okay, so that would be possibly a negative thing, because if there was plans to hike rates further and we had, I guess, sort of confirmation that we are going to see further rate hikes. At the moment, we don't really have that confirmation. All the Fed have said is, if the data shows that they need to go again, they will go again. That is technically hawkish talk, but it's not a guarantee of a hike in the future. So I feel like the market is now pricing in more of a pause. We've seen that with the CME Fed tool. Let's just bring it up today. Let's see what the CME Fed tool is telling us for today. And it's back up. So yeah, I think Tuesday it was around about 75%. It's back up now to 88.5%. So we do have the market now sort of looking to price in that pause in this September meeting coming up. So there is an expectation of that. I think the dollar could start to perform slightly poorer because of that. So there's the kind of, I suppose, fundamental background as to why we could anticipate that the dollar could move a little bit lower. We then obviously have the technicals that bring into it. Now, why would I look at necessarily dollar CAD? Well, there's a kind of two scopes to this. There's a technical scope, and then we also have oil prices. So oil prices are actually up at the minute. You can see that price on this weekly chart has had a bullish week. We're right by these highs in here. I feel like if we get a breakout of these highs, then oil could go to the next level of resistance, which for me is around about this $92 area. So if we're going to have positive oil prices, does that mean that CAD could see some sort of investment flows then potentially? And if that's the case, then I want to be looking to see if CAD would get stronger. Looking at dollar CAD price, we are at the resistance level. So 136.50 was the level we were interested in. You can see we've come up into these highs now that formed back at the end of May this year. And we've had a little bit of a stalling point there. The one thing I was really looking for this week was how the dollar index performed as well, because you can see they're quite similar in terms of the comeback up into previous highs. For the dollar index, that was the 104 spot, sort of 50 area. And we started to see a little bit of a rejection there in terms of we had the daily sort of bearish candlesticks forming. And we also kind of broke to the downside here. So that's what I was kind of looking at, very similar to dollar CAD, was the fact that we were starting to almost technically break down. And one of those things that we could see was price formed the double top. We've then traded through that level, which is technically the neckline of that double top pattern, which is a pattern that I really like to look at. You can then see we've created the lower high here and price has then traded. Now, what I was watching today was essentially what did the price do overnight and in the European session? And the answer was pretty much nothing. Okay, price didn't do anything really, which gives me a feeling, so I suppose sentiment feeling, that there is some further downside for this market, even if it may be the short term, which is the way I looked at it. Because of the lack of buying going on in here, I was fairly confident that maybe we were going to seek lower prices. Now, that may be this 135 handle. We may just try and take these lows in here, for instance. That could be something as well. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it can follow through. But those sort of candlesticks there gave me the idea that maybe price wasn't going to continue higher. Very similar to here. You know, you can see we have quite aggressive selling coming in. It comes into a level of support, and look at the candlesticks going into that level. They're like a quarter of the volume of what appeared in that sort of bearish candlestick. And I love these type of candlesticks paired together. I think if you can get 3 or 4 candlesticks really tightly, tight ranges after a sort of impulsive move, that to me gives me a feeling that the price isn't going to continue down that way. Now, that's not always the case. Obviously, if it was 100%, then that's all I'd be looking for in the market. But there is, you know, a good chance that we could get a little bit of a turnaround, I feel, in my experience. So that there is an idea, that there's an idea. We actually talked about this a while ago. Let me just bring on the daily chart. And I believe, how long ago was it now? Might have been over here, where we're talking about the daily candlesticks and the lack of sort of buying coming in from a day to day. And then we did get the continuation and the follow through down into the 133 handle there. So it's very similar on a daily chart as well. But you can see here, daily chart, we've rejected, we're continuing down. Now, the one thing I like to look at, like I said, is sort of the hourly time frame. Again, you can see it in a little bit more detail. It actually was on the 30-minute time frame for this one. I'm going to bring in two things here, but I'm just going to hide that one for a second. But essentially, I was looking to see when we tap the averages, how did that look from an RSI point of view? So on an RSI here, we had the break above the 50 and then a pull back below the 50. So that was a signal in there. We then had a secondary signal, which was from the stochastic. So we'll just bring in the stochastic there, which was here on this bearish candlestick. Now, this is where I got involved with the market. I didn't take this one here because, well, tell a lie, I did, but I didn't get triggered because I placed a sell stop order at 135.36 and it just didn't get triggered. But we've got an alert going on pound yen. So it looks like pound yen. Pound yen's another market I'm looking at the moment. So we'll go take a look at that alert in a second. But you can see here we came up, we got the sort of push down on the stochastic, and then that's why I was in this position, targeting just these lows in here. Now, after the news came out, because the news kind of rallied first, then pushed down, I was a little bit like, right, okay, I think I'm just going to close this position out, which I did. So that was a little bit of a last minute sort of trade I was looking at, but that all came from the video yesterday when I was looking at the potential rejection of this weekly chart high. Is that potentially going to come down to the 133.50s? Because I love to use the weekly time frame. I think the weekly gives me enough perspective of what could potentially happen going into the next week. You know, I believe that if we get some kind of bearish rejection here, it could continue very similar to what we had over here. Obviously, that's not always the case, although we did reject there after a big sort of bearish candlestick that didn't follow through. We had a bullish one the week after. So but I do like to follow this weekly chart as much as physically possible. So yeah, I feel like if we get a bearish close on the week, let's say the NFP data comes out and the NFP data is pretty poor for the US, again, that could fuel the fire for a pause from the Fed. That could then, you know, see the dollar continue to weaken essentially. So if that's the case, then dollar CAD could be still one to watch down to that 133.50 area. The reason why I'm pointing that out is because obviously it was this kind of previous area where price found some resistance, so it could find support there. So just simple support and resistance stuff there. Going on to, let's go to pound yen then. So pound yen, obviously an alert's gone off for pound yen, and we've been pretty bullish this market for a while because of this sort of bullish trend that's come out of this market. My feelings towards yen as well haven't changed. I still feel like there's some potential weakness in that market, however short term that may be. I think we are coming to a point where there should be some kind of turnaround. If I go check out the VIX, for instance, we were kind of up for a couple of days, which go to a line chart, and then we have started to push lower again. So that tells me that maybe that we're getting a bit more risk on in the markets, and if we're getting a bit more risk on, then we should see yen continue to weaken. Dollar yen's above 145 at the moment, and again, look at the lack of sort of selling coming here. There's no real aggression from sellers, I don't think, at the moment. If you look at this 4-hour time frame, again, you can see this 145.50 to 145.80 is being defended quite heavily at the moment. So that, again, is that a sellers here, every time they're pushing price into that, they're getting absorbed by the buyers, and then our buyer's going to win, and are we going to see a move higher? That's the feeling that pound yen could then produce a similar move. The reason why I'm looking more at pound, I kind of explained it in the previous live stream, where I just feel that the pound could potentially strengthen slightly more. Obviously, inflation rates still in the UK are coming down. They are coming down, but they are still relatively high as well. So whereas in the US, inflation has come down, in the UK, it's not nowhere near where the US is. And I think the Bank of England are or should maybe consider one more move. They have to obviously balance the risks of that as well in terms of how does that affect the economy then? How does that affect banking sector? How does that affect sort of the global markets in that stance, considering the fact that we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown in China as well. So there's lots of geopolitical things going on as well. But if the UK have one more hike in them, it just could see the pound be the place to go for a little bit. Now, pound yen obviously offers some really good things. It offers good sort of good carry trades at the moment. And it's also in that sort of bullish period. So I like the idea of potentially looking for pound yen into 186.50, perhaps 188. 188 would be the goal because it is the sort of right shoulder of the head and shoulders pattern that formed here on the monthly chart. So I wouldn't mind seeing a move into 188. A break above that, possibly we could see the 195. But let's go down into the lower time frame. What is the sort of chart doing at this current moment in time? Well, if we go take a look at the hourly chart here, price is kind of touching those averages again. If I just bring in some of the indicators, you can see that stochastic is also starting to kind of push up. The RSI, more importantly, it could potentially come over that 50 as well. So that's why that alert went off. I'm just going to add another alert because obviously it's starting to pull back a little bit. So if we were to see price break above this 50 MA, close above the 50 MA would be nice because I think it would then see the RSI trigger that there. That could then offer or could influence buyers to get involved with the market. With targets being the sort of previous highs here, and that 186.50. If it goes beyond that, then great. You've got the 188 to potentially look for. So we'll see how the market kind of takes that. At the moment, obviously, it's still early days. We've still got 15 minutes or so left on this candle. Let's have a look at the 15-minute chart. 15-minute chart has technically sort of broken through trend there. Obviously, the lower time frame you go, the sort of less effects price action really has. So yeah, there's that potential as well. Any questions so far, guys? Are we all good? What's everyone else watching? These are the kind of the two charts that I want at the moment: dollar CAD and pound yen. Obviously, we will go over some more as well. I've been liking gold, and gold has hit the 1950 level of resistance. So it's whether we get a continuation to the upside here on gold or whether we see a bit of a pullback now. Look at that consolidation on gold. Look at that 4-hour consolidation. If price was to close above 1942 here, this could be a sort of sign again, like, what's going on in that consolidation. Obviously, buyers and sellers feel like it's a fair price could be at fair value at the minute. If you were to get a close above and then a break above, what would that see gold do? Well, there's potential for 1980 to be found as well. So, yeah, gold could be definitely one to watch in this little near future. We'll see how that performs. That's got a lot of time to go though, especially from a 4-hour perspective. So, Roberto, euro dollar just broke yesterday's low. Let's go take a look at euro USD. Get some of these off. So obviously the news yesterday drove prices higher again. What did we have yesterday? Yeah, we had that US prelim GDP data come out at 2.1%. Had dollar week. price pushed higher into that resistance level here, and now we're starting that 200 moving average has acted as a nice little area of resistance for price. And we started to see a little bit of a push down here. So yeah, broken through yesterday's low. If we have a little look at the daily chart, just taking that yesterday low out. Again, if we go take a look at euro dollar from a weekly, good afternoon, CR. Hope you're good. Welcome to the live stream. You can see here, we've tried to trade through the weekly high at the 1.0930. We've rejected that. Weekly is relatively bearish. This is sort of following the dollar index, isn't it? If we take a look at the dollar index, we've got the similar sort of pattern there. Price has come into an area of resistance. We're starting to see a little bit of a rejection. We'll see how that continues, because obviously if we take a look at the 4 hour here, dollar's starting to gain some strength again. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. You might even get a little bit of a, I don't know, like maybe even a little bit of a head and shoulders sort of scenario there if it can't trade through that high anyway. So if that was the case, then obviously euro dollar would continue to the downside. So yeah, let's see how that one performs. I guess the only thing I've got with euro dollar at the moment is we had a lot of buying coming in at 1.08. So if I was to try and look for, let's say, I'm just looking at this from personal sort of entry purposes, where would I kind of go for? I don't really have a setup, so I don't, risk reward wise as well, safety reasons above. Yeah, it's just not feeling that. If you're an intraday trader, you could start looking obviously at your sort of lower time frames. I don't particularly mess with these time frames when I'm sort of swing trading, so I would just see how that one plays out. A strong daily bearish close there could obviously see a bit of a move down, but yeah, sideways still. The NFP probably tomorrow. Yeah, we'll probably get some sideways movement. Possible return to Monday's low before NFP. So down through there. Yeah, potentially. NFP might drive it through those lows. We don't know. Obviously, NFP is reported to come in lower at 170. So we need sort of NFP to kind of show us the sort of labor market decrease or contraction. It needs to kind of follow through. And if it does, then yeah, I think euro dollar could trade a little. Sorry, if there was a shock, at NFP, we'd probably see euro dollar trade lower. Yeah, it's a tough one. Are we seeing a bit of a dollar rally ahead of a poor NFP, where then we could see a poor NFP and then the markets sort of trade back the other way? That's what we could be seeing as well. So yeah, the only thing I don't like here is that we've broken that weekly high. Okay, now that doesn't obviously mean breaking a weekly high doesn't mean that price is going to continue that direction, because you can see price broke a weekly high here, it turned around and turned bearish. So obviously, again, it's not any kind of sort of guarantee there. I just don't like seeing price break into a weekly high. I like to see sort of continuation. But yeah, I think it's going to be important to see where price is at the end of this week, going into September. If we could set ourselves up nicely for September with a couple of these weekly closes, then I think that would be pretty good. Cable still flapping about the 1.2650 handle. We had a couple of days of bullishness. We actually saw this consolidation, 2 closes below the area, and then I was looking at this consolidation on the 4 hour time frame, saying, price may trade within the range or break lower, and then it looks like we could continue to the downside. But we didn't get that. Price broke higher actually, and we traded back up to the 127. So currently price is above 126.50. That's kind of feeding as well into my bias that potentially pound could get stronger because we've had this kind of false breakout of a consolidation zone. So, if buyers are getting involved and, we're going to target the high of a consolidation, then we could see price above 128. Vincent, I'm seeing like a head and shoulders pattern on the New Zealand dollar H1 chart. Can you take a look for me? Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to, I can kind of see that already. We'll go to the hourly time frame. So you're looking at this really, right? Now, head and shoulders patterns only complete if they trade through the neckline. So you'd need to see price trade through that before seeing a continuation. So yeah, I would wait to see price break. Just remember this 59 handle, very, very, very close at the moment, and price has rejected this area so many times. So at the moment, buyers are happy to go long here. So that's the one thing I'd just say be very careful of. Buyers are very happy to get long at that 0 spot 59 handle. It kind of looks like a head and shoulders pattern as well from a daily perspective. It's not the cleanest of head and shoulders I've ever seen, but you can see that kind of potential there. What if price comes back towards that 59 handle, rejects, and then we trade through that neckline? That would be very interesting due to the fact that we could see some long-term upside. Again, I would be very, very cautious of watching how these daily candlesticks develop. If we get these downward candlesticks and they finish, let's just say we get 3 of them finishing like that in a row. I doubt that will happen with NFP tomorrow, but let's say we had that and it just very similar. Going into the week after in September, I would say there is a very strong possibility that we could start to trade higher there. And I would add that one to my watch list. But I need to see how tomorrow closes, really. It's a bit of an awkward week this week. We haven't really had lots of volume in the market. We've had kind of important data coming out, but it's just this August period can be a little bit tricky for price. So yeah, it's very, very hard to kind of pick out key directional moves at this current moment in time. We can see a lot of the major currency pairs just kind of bunching up together at this current moment in time. So we'll have to wait and see. Aussie's looking a little bit supported. So, Aussie's looking at this kind of double bottom pattern. We've also, well, I was going to say we have divergence, but we don't actually. We don't have any divergence because price made a lower low and a higher low. So, yeah, we don't have any divergence there at this moment in time. Any COT data showing potential? I haven't looked at any COT data, Roberto, so I have no idea. Everyone's still at the beach. Yeah, I think so. Thank you. I have a look at your option as well. Yeah, cool, Vincent. Any other charts you want me to have a look at as well? Throw them in the chat. Let's have a look around them. Aussie Yen was another chart I was pretty interested in this week. We have breached this trend line now, and we are, so Tuesday we're looking at price potentially moving higher here. It's not set the world alight. We have come into these previous daily highs at 95 and sort of closed below. So they've got that going for it slightly. 4 hours looking pretty tasty from the last 4 hour candle. It's like a bullish engulfing candlestick. The previous hourly was very strong. So if I was looking at that from a sort of system point of view and looking at it on my system, then that is a sort of clear alert there that the system's been completed. How confident am I that this is going to rally? That's the question. Now, manufacturing PMI out of China was a little bit better than expected. That's flowed into the Australian dollar. The Australian dollar's been fairly strong today. The only thing is we do have the Caxton report out tomorrow as well. So that's the only thing I'd be holding out on, really. If that shows contraction, then it could be a little bit of a problem. US indices. Indices performing pretty well. You know, then this kind of feeds into that risk on turn I was talking about. The VIX coming lower, risk on in the S&P. Stock markets in general, you've got the Dow, NASDAQ moving higher as well. The DAX, FTSE, oil performing pretty well. I actually missed the boat here on oil. I was very bullish oil, and that breach of trend line there should have been a bit of an alert for me to, you know, look for that continuation. Whether we would have had a setup or not is a different question. I don't know whether I would have got a setup there yesterday. Don't think I might have had to go to the 30-minute time frame to get a setup, which would have been here. That candlestick at 5:30 p.m. close, that would have been my alert on that. Obviously, that in hindsight, that looks brilliant, right? But yeah, missed the boat on that one, unfortunately. You know, I didn't see it. Well, although I did see this breach because we talked about it on Tuesday, I didn't keep an eye on it. Unfortunately, I didn't keep an eye on it. And yeah, that's trading sometimes. We miss them. Vincent, I'm long pound Aussie from 1.95047. I've taken partial and stop loss moved to break even. Nice. Let's go take a look at that one then, if you don't mind. Pound Aussie's been quite fruitful for us in the past. So you've taken a long from 1.9. Let's bring this on. Let's go to inputs. 1.95047. Profit level, we'll just open that up to 1.99, so that goes away. I guess your stop loss was below the swing low, so I'm just going to leave it there for a second. I mean, phenomenal entry. If that, you know, looking at that. It's a shame that prices come back, isn't it? I think this is one of those things where it's always good to take some profits off at the first point of resistance, and this is a good case for that. Now, I don't know where your stop loss was, you know, because a 30 pip stop loss on a pound Aussie currency pair could be a little bit tight. Even a 40 pip stop could be quite tight for a pound Aussie. So, don't know where your stop was on that one, but I would have definitely took partials here. You can see that price is rejecting this key area, right? So, you know, just because price is rejecting the key area doesn't mean that it's going to reject it again. It just means that, you know, if everyone's getting out around about this point, you know, why are you going to hold a position through there, essentially? So a good partial profits would have been here. You know, we are trading back below the 50 MA as well. So although that's not sort of, you know, mega important, you know, there could be some traders looking at that. We are back in this little zone here. The only thing I would say is, I'd say Aussie's a little bit stronger at this moment in time. You know, I don't really see Aussie weak at this moment. So, you know, especially if you look across the board. So if you're going to take in Aussie pairs, so Aussie against the US dollar is up, considering the fact that the dollar's strong, right? So Aussie US dollar's up. So that's one thing I'd take into consideration. Aussie CAD is up, Aussie Swiss is up, Aussie Yen down. So that's kind of telling us that obviously the Yen's been a little bit stronger overnight. Euro Oz is down as well. So Aussie stronger than the Euro. So if you look at it from a whole, then you can start to build a picture that the Australian dollar is fairly strong at this moment. So against the pound, I probably wouldn't look for this personally. I mean, I'm not saying taken away from that. It's a good, solid entry that you found there. And I think if you've taken partials at the high and moved your stop to break even, then you know that's all you need to do. That's absolutely perfect trade management. Taking some partials is good because then you've banked something from it, so you don't feel like you're giving anything back, which I think is a big plus as well. You know, we just have to wait to see if you get another idea. If you do get tapped out at break even, no big deal. You're not going to take anything away from that. But maybe if we trade through this area here, you can get a little bit more confident and add in another look to see if price will come in at 1.99 maybe or something. So yeah, I think that's a solid trade, Vincent. Very good. Especially if you kind of traded it from a lower time frame point of view. Again, if you could have your stop here, isn't that brilliant? You know, you're 3-1 up to the highs. So yeah, like that one. I just think pound Aussie is in a little bit of a place at the minute where could just range slightly because of the two currencies being fairly strong. Didn't get a look in on pound yen. That has turned slightly. Let's have a little look at that hourly close. Did get the technical strategy set up there. Just hasn't hit my alert. So again, for me, you know, I like to buy with the market. You know, limit orders, you're kind of going against your position. So maybe something where if I was going to look at this, then you want to go sort of at 185, or I would look at 185.37, maybe even. Problem with that is we've got negative reward to the high, which isn't ideal. So don't really like that downside pressure there, to be honest. A breach of these trend lines as well would be very negative. Let's have a little look at the yen. Dollar yen has breached trendline resistance. That close. Let's put an alert at 146.27. Put an alert there. See what happens to that market. Not that I'm necessarily looking at that. You know, I just want to see if that yen's going to weaken. Stop loss was 40 pips. It took partials at the immediate high. Nice. Good work. I like that, Vincent. I like it a lot. Your trading has come on a lot, Vincent. You know, you should be really, really happy with yourself. Really proud of yourself for that. Any seasonal effects? I have no idea. I did some seasonal analysis yesterday because obviously we are coming into month end, but I was going to leave some seasonal analysis until the weekend, to be honest, because we're going into that sort of period. I know Euro can have a pretty good month in September. Quick look. Just gonna have a look at some futures. Let's get yen futures. Let's see if anything comes up there. not letting me look at that one for whatever reason. Euro futures could be something. If you look at the Euro futures, you can see here, end of August, September, we've got that sort of low that forms where we could see a little bit of a rally, but you can see the chart from a whole, very, very sort of range bound. So that could be something to look at. Go back to that. S&P as its worst month in September. Let's have a look at that then. Look at the E-minis. So this is the futures contract. Looks like middle of September is where we get that kind of turning point, that peak high. That to me looks like the sort of turning point, I guess, for September. It looks kind of bullish in the first sort of sector though, doesn't it? Looks fairly bullish. You might just find that you get a little bit of a pop early September because the market's kind of coming back to sort of full flow after the holiday period, which in turn could drive prices back to those highs. I mean, I'd be amazed if we get back to all-time highs, but I wouldn't be shocked at the same time. I would not be shocked at all if we did do that. So, you know, maybe there is a point where it does come back to those all-time highs there and pretty much shock the market a little. I think once we breached this trend line, it was, you know, and especially that touch there with the price then breaking through 41, maybe even the 4,200 handle, that was the sort of sticking point for buyers, wasn't it? Again, markets are just in that sort of risk-on mode. Whether that changes when we come into September, you know, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to keep an eye on our VIX, see where the VIX comes in at. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing price a little bit lower on the VIX, down into the sort of 1250 area, 1240s. Just need volatility to increase there if we're going to see any kind of risk on, risk off sort of tone change. At the moment, I just feel like the market is in a bit of risk on more than it is in that sort of risk off tone. Let's see. Really happy, John. All thanks to you. Your inputs have really helped me. I checked my records yesterday from May 2023 to August 2023, 63% win rate. I can't thank you enough. Oh, thank you, Vincent, man. I really appreciate that. But you got to understand it's all your hard work. You know, you're the person pressing the button at the end of the day. So, you know, it's not down to me. It's down to you. So, yeah, you should be really, really proud of yourself. Hopefully it can continue for you. And, you know, hopefully, yeah, helps you change your life. Just before Santa rally, yeah, essentially, if Fed stalls rates, then rally could be on the cards. Yeah, I think that's what because the market's pricing in that stalling of interest rates, then yeah, that sort of is good news really for the stock market, isn't it? It's good for business, good for banks. You know, at least they know where they sort of stand at that point. And yeah, I guess that would be a good point for the stock markets, and the markets could probably continue higher. So, yeah. Right. Any other questions, guys? If not, I will probably leave it there. We're starting to see a little bit more of a dollar rally coming into this session. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Obviously, I was looking at pound yen, but pound yen's looking a little bit choppy now. Doesn't look like we're going to get that move that I was expecting. So unfortunately, that might not come about. I've set some alerts though. Oil, actually, I really like. Actually, really like oil. I've probably missed the boat there for the moment. So we'll see if the daily can pull back tomorrow. Maybe that can give us something to look into as well. But it is obviously NFP tomorrow, so make sure that you are very safe with what you're doing. No need to go and risk everything at the end of the month. You know, if you've had a good month, then you know it's probably a good day to just watch the markets. Come into September with a fresh outlook, a fresh sort of idea, and hopefully we get some directional markets through September once that sort of volatility and volumes come back. So thank you for joining me today. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for all the comments, questions as usual. If you could leave a like on the stream, I would really appreciate it. Big shout out to Vincent as well. Absolutely acing it at the moment. Keep on with that. And yeah, thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Roberto, as well, for your comments, questions. And yeah, I will catch you guys next week. And have a great one. Cheers.